Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack. We also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
today. It's well, no, actually, this month is it's like it was a Women's History Month, and
Yes,
Marvel. This is it for you. You gotta watch your steps, sir. It's
something's wrong.
Women's History Month,
Something's
and
wrong with
huh?
my tone. Something's wrong with my tone.
Sorry, say that again.
Something's wrong with my tone.
Uh, so, so Marvel put out a new streaming sort of interview sort of series where they talk to the talent, the various female talent in Marvel, and we're gonna watch a trailer to that for now. So, ready, set, and almost ready. This is how we screw up our screen by blowing us up and rolling. Nope, let's start over.
We've never seen a, we've never seen a world like this populated with so many different faces and colors. It's a beautiful thing to see. Not to show these boys how we do it.
We're all recognizing that these stories need to be told about women. Wanda, her vulnerability in her emotional life is when she's at her most powerful.
It's important to recognize yourself. You could watch it and think, people that look like me, we can be superheroes too.
It's so important for women to be behind the scenes as well. We need all those voices at the table. I learned when you were tested, you're stronger, taller, bigger than you thought.
I'm not interested in the glass ceiling. I'm interested in the brick wall. And if I take down the brick wall, then we can redesign the building. That's the only way to go forward.
We have the power to represent what the world looks like today.
We can take these characters' motivations and bring it into our own lives, and it empowers us.
Empower, a 4-part series now streaming only on Disney Plus.
Sorry about that. Let's get out of that thing. So sure. Hey, so what do you think of that, buddy?
It looks empowering.
Good answer, sir. Good answer. Ultimately, it's interesting because they don't, it feels like for the Marvel stuff, this has been kind of, well, they got the Mandalorian going on right now. So it's been kind of a dry spell as far as TV programming on the Disney Channel. But, so, I mean, this is fine. They had, a couple of other things on Disney Channel, which was more like interview stuff, but it's kind of pushed together. Now, this is, for them to get this in time for Women's History Month, and then, what did they do for Stan? They decided to announce a documentary on his 100th birthday, not produce one. But it's I don't. Listen, I'm not going to jump. Anything else you want to say? Because I'm going to jump to the next point.
I don't know. It just seems kind of whack because they're already at this point. They're already on overkill. With the female stuff, and they've been at that for like the last 2 years. So the idea of this right over here is like you're already doing it. Okay, you're already doing it. You've already made this large commitment to female stories and empowerment, so on and so. And on one hand, to their credit, you have made every month Women's History Month. So this for me is just like, hey, you're already doing it. Why do I need to tune into this?
Well, I see your point. It's a thing where you can look at any of the series that they have out here, and and the movie. So they have a strong, powerful woman in each of these things, not just one, many, or it could be even the villain on the edge, as in like the Flag Smasher. So you have a lot of positive roles this, I mean, obviously you need to fill, you got content, and you need to fill it. So they're putting this thing up there. And, it seems like there's some positive for people, but, it's also, they have been doing it. So it's not like, this is the highlight, something that was like, I think like a lot of fans talk about the artist Keith Pollard and say like, hey, he's always forgotten. And I'm just like, well, let's look at the time when he was out in the 70s. Like they put him on their top books. Like he was on Thor, Fantastic Four at the time when Fantastic Four was the top team book. And he beat out Byrne for Spider-Man. But the fans forget, and Vigilante was a great series. His return to the Fantastic Four, but at the same time, it's like he's forgotten. He's like, well, sometimes going from Neil Adams, you have Byrne and Miller and Perez were more popular than Neil Adams in the 80s. It's just what happens. But, it's kind of a thing of like saying, hey, we're not. No, they are, as you said. But here's where people go to overkill. I'm a whole fine for you doing your documentary to show what you did, how you got there. But then the media says, hey, we can't just celebrate the series. We got to point out that Ant-Man 3 didn't, failed in what they tried to do. And it's like, huh? Like, I understand that it's not making the money. I understand it got Rotten Tomatoes scores, but you have Jan in there killing it. You have, actually, you had Hope coming in there, saving in the end, even though she's in both Ant-Man 2 and this one 3, she's been kind of been the one to get all of the complaining storyline from the past storyline, the side story. But then you had the little girl, the young girl there too. So you had all these women in there. So the Acclaim in there and women and girls in there that had powerful roles. Whether the world and the audience, no, I don't know. I think the Rotten Tomato scores, the people are okay with it. The critics tore it down. So I think that's where it is. But this kind of thing of kind of comparing it to Ant-Man 3 is kind of doing Ant-Man 3 a disservice and putting it in a place where you can't really compare the two. Like, why would you compare this and the other thing? It's like you need to make the story highlight this story when it's got a decent title. It's Empower. You might check it out. I thought it was gonna be another series that I didn't know it was gonna be interviews, so you might get drawn in that way. But this kind of stuff that they do is like just talk about the merits of the series, not tear down Ant-Man 3. So.
No, that's the only way.
It failed yet. So sorry. Yeah, you go.
That's the only way any of this works because it's pandering. When you are doing this with, they've done this with every series, starting with Captain Marvel, where they have definitely tried to highlight more of the female characters, tell their stories, if you will, empower, blah blah blah. So they have been on a steady march with this, up to this point. So this is not like, hey, it's Women's History Month, we're just starting to do this, or this isn't even a complaint. They've been doing it. So to then go to Ant-Man 3 and say, well, this is getting the acclaim that what was Ant-Man 3 supposed to get acclaim for? For Women's History Month? Is that what it was supposed to get acclaim for? It was supposed to be a movie, dealing with Ant-Man. So again, and I understand they do this with the media. We'll be like, we got to try to make some noise somewhere, or what's the hook? Because to be honest, Marvel's already doing it. So why should people tune into this? Oh, tune into this because it did what Ant-Man didn't do at the acclaim. But Ant-Man was never. It was never about that. This was not Ant-Man. The women take charge. It was Ant-Man Quantumania, and the major thing in that is supposed to be introducing the new major villain in Kang. After the last time we saw him was in Loki. So that's where that movie was. If it didn't do that successfully, okay. But is this doing that? No. This is a documentary talking about the women of Marvel, of the MCU and Marvel overall, I suppose. So those type of things for me are just underhanded. But then that's what happens when you do a bunch of pandering because you can't stop. When you keep puffing people up, okay, and telling them they're the best, so on and so forth. When do you stop? Because the second that you stop, oh, you're not doing this and you're not showing any representation, so on and so forth, because you weren't just going out there to tell good stories and to put your best foot forward. It was like, no, we're over here doing, over here, gassing people up. And once you do that, nobody wants the balloon to come back down. So that's the situation that they put themselves in, at least for the foreseeable future. And it's not with their audiences, it's with the critics and the vociferous people online who have nothing but time on their hands to make these particular complaints. So again, you can't go over here and gas someone up and then be, oh no, we're losing air. No, you should have just done what you were doing. Everybody was already on board with what you were doing, and then you decided to take this hard tack, which is not something you can maintain. It can't be maintained at the end of the day for any long period of time, but you decided to do it, and now what? So again, I look at a series like this would be as if they spent the last 5 years in really enlarging the roles of any black character, and then Black History Month comes over and they decided to do a special like this. You're like, well, gee, you've had everybody front and center for the last 5 years. It's kind of like you're doing it already. Is this special really necessary? Simply because it's Women's History and because it's Women's History Month? But that's what happens when you pander.
Well, we don't like the word. I mean, I feel like Mars somewhere out there in the ether and saying we don't like pander. We like promote. We like seeing them participate. We don't like pander. I'm thinking of you ever see that What's Happening episode? He said, you take it, you shove it in, you bring a piece of meat, shove it in the bun. We don't shove it, we place it.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, I hear your points. Definitely go out and check it out. But I don't know about We Got It Covered doing their celebrating it by tearing down Ant-Man when it's just like, hey, we've had situations where the critics hate and the audience is okay with it, which is fine. That's what you want to talk to. That's the people you want to talk to, not to the critics are there to find fault. And at this point you have things like The Last Jedi, which they loved, and and this Ant-Man, which they didn't. And what can you say? The audience spoke on both of those cases. So. And at the same time, you can't always say for your own choices. But anyway, you got Empower out there. It's supposed to fill the gap instead of you going out and seeing the the fantastic worlds of Quantumania. So you feel like doing that instead of going out, or you could go do both because
Quantumania, entertaining film, not the greatest film in the world, not the worst film in the world, but exactly what a film is supposed to be. You get a little bit of distraction from the regular day world, and then you can get back into things. That's the best you can hope for with most of this stuff, and the film does deliver on that. This documentary, hey, if it's in your wheelhouse, by all means, go and have a go at it. However, I stand by what I said earlier. I see no reason to watch it based on what you've done up to this point.
Okay, so we got that, and Spinner Rack is
out
later.